Okay, it's 10 o'clock. We will call the Sawyer County Administration Committee meeting for Thursday, February 17th, 2022 to order, please. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Tweet Schuman,
Here.
Dale Schleter,
Yeah.
Ron Kinsley, Tom Duffy.
Thank you all. Let the record indicate we have a quorum, madam. Certification of compliance with open meetings law.
The meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. The meeting agenda has been presented. Moving on into public comment. Anyone here that would like to address the administration committee? Mike, anybody online? Nobody? All right, moving on then to number 6, approval of our meeting minutes, January 20th, 2022. Mr. Duffy. Move to approve as presented, second by Mr. Kinsley. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, Veteran Service Department report. Gary's not here, but he sent us a written report. Tom, do you have anything to add to this?
I do not.
Gary seems pretty content with our moving forward with his office space and
Yeah, I believe so. He's been involved in the planning of some slight remodeling in that area, so
the old
satisfied
Oasis.
that that'll suffice for his needs, yes.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns about the Veteran Service Office report? Okay. If not, then we'll move on to number 8, Information Technology Department report. Mike?
Morning.
Morning.
So I've got my report. I can't think of anything that needs highlighting unless you have any questions.
Mr. Duffy? Just thinking. Wow. Pretty impressive there. Okay. If there's nothing, appreciate it. I appreciate all you do. Okay, number 9, Human Resources report. Rose is not here. She sent a written report. Tom, do you care to comment at all?
No, she's been busy. She'll be out here through Monday, but she did supply this report.
Okay.
We've got quite a few recruitments in process. They're listed there.
Oh, sure.
I was talking with the other administrators on Mondays, as we do every week. One of them, Chippewa County, mentioned they have 42 recruitments going on right now. With a lot of open positions trying to be filled around the state. So we're not unique in trying to attract people, but the ones that we do get in the door are well qualified. We're happy with what we get on board, but instead of a dozen or 2 applications, we're getting 4, 5, or 6 sometimes, which is a good recruitment.
Yeah.
42.
I see it.
Are the recruitments all about money now?
Pardon me?
Is it all about money? What's
No, and we have that discussion and we know what other people pay and, we kind of leapfrog each other in certain areas. We are behind in some areas. We're okay in other areas. We've made some adjustments on those that, we've had issues with, like in the jail. It costs us more to turn over those positions than it is to bump them up a little bit. So there's just a lack of individuals who are.
Would you have some discretion as far as money is concerned if we actually had a?
Yeah, we have authorized positions that you have allocated and you've got a pay plan that you approve, but and each of those positions is within a grade and there's steps within that grade. So, this position is in grade F and within grade F, there's 10 steps. We try and start them, at a starting wage, but if they've got experience and knowledge and whatnot, I do have discretion to move within that grade to get them in the door. And so we do that occasionally, but depends on experience. We just, don't pay more because they want more. If they deserve more, we can do that, yes.
Good questions, Mr. Duffy. And these are hires, I believe they're ladies in human services.
Yes.
Full time. Oh, great. Okay, any questions, concerns with human resource report? Not, we'll let Rose know. We appreciate that. Number 10, ambulance billing provider, discussion and possible action. It's not here, but
Yeah, I'll introduce the topic. This is related to, we did a request for proposal, an RFP for a new ambulance billing company. So we've gone through that process, selected LifeQuest as the vendor in accordance with our purchasing rules. We did utilize LifeQuest prior to, we brought it in-house for a while, and then we had this other company for a while. LifeQuest, we've had experience, they know our system. I think we moved off of LifeQuest before just because the person at that time wanted to bring it in-house. And we did have a good biller in-house for a while, but it's hard to keep that kind of a person and you only have one person. So I think it is advantageous to have a company that keeps up with all the Medicare rules and regulations to do the billing for us. It's quite technical.
Yep.
So I'm very comfortable in having a third party do that service for us, and I'm very comfortable with LifeQuest providing that service. We use LifeQuest at the city of Eau Claire when I was there doing ambulance service. Very good company, and they'll do a good job for us. I think we just weren't able to get our previous company to do the things that we wanted them to do in the fashion we needed them to do it, and I think they did not serve the county as well as they should have. So that's why we moved on from them. We'll be moving into LifeQuest, and that does require a new merchant account. That's a credit card account that allows us to take credit cards for those payments, and a new bank account that those deposits will go into. Another advantage of using LifeQuest is that they will be handling all of the deposits, the checks coming in. Prior, the other company, we actually took that piece over, and a lot of the activity came into the treasurer's office in our location. So that activity will be moving out of the office, which will give them a little bit more time to do their other processing. But those two requirements, the merchant account and the bank account, are what is required to get this billing.
can we wrap those into one motion, Tom, or would you like them separate?
You can do one. Either
Okay.
way.
And then we'll move it on to full county board for their approval.
Yes, please.
Mr. Kinsley? Okay, motion by Mr. Kinsley to approve the credit card merchant account application of LifeQuest, and also approving the new bank account for authorizations for LifeQuest deposits. Second by Mr. Duffy. Is there any further discussion? And then moving on to
How
full
much,
county board.
how much money are we talking about?
As far as what they bring in or their fee,
Or how many delinquent, what's the delinquent amount?
we don't have those
I think
numbers.
it's admin.
I don't anyway. Do you have any?
No, because there's gonna be some adjustments on that. That's probably one of the.
But
first
how
ones.
a ballpark figure, what are we?
I would be guessing, I don't know at this point. That's like, it's probably one of the first things with LifeQuest we need to get on top of is what is that number?
Yeah, in the, ambulance billing, they do an ambulance run. Our people fill out all the information, send it into the company. The company then bills it. There's a series of things that happen if they don't pay. Or, it might go to insurance, it might go to Medicare, and they may pay, or if it's a private pay, they may pay or not. And if not, then we send a series of letters, and it gets to a point where if they don't pay, then it goes to collection. Some of those that have Medicare, the amount of the bill gets written down to X number. So those that get unpaid have been kind of hanging out there. And so that number is probably larger than it should be, because there were things that should have been written off that weren't written off. That's another one of the problems. So I think we'll get a better handle on just what that number is as soon as we get some of these things cleaned up. I think we'll see a higher percentage of collections with the new company than we had received in the past. In fact, I think one of the things you'll see next month through public safety and probably finance is a change in the rates that we charge for that ambulance service. The first thing LifeQuest did was an analysis of our rates versus other ambulance services within the state and our portion of the state. to see where our rates are, and they've got suggestions for changing a few of those rates, which helps only on the private pay side. If it's Medicare, we get what we get, but on the private pay side, it'll bring our rates a little bit more in line with what the market bears. So I think professional things like that LifeQuest will do for us will really help us not only get better reports on where we're at, but also a higher level of collections on the activity that we do.
And what fee do they charge us?
This is on a percentage basis. We were on a flat fee. And ambulance services tend to do one or the other. I think on the flat fee side, they do their activity, but there's not a lot of incentive to collect after that. On the percentage, it's calculated a little bit differently, but they don't get paid unless the people pay. So that percentage is on the collected amount, not the billed amount. So they have a greater motivation to get those collections in.
But what's the fee?
It's a little over 4%. I don't remember the exact 4.1 or 2 or something like that.
Which is a pretty good rate as far as what they do for that activity.
Okay, is there any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Kinsley, second by Mr. Duffy, to approve the credit card merchant account application by LifeQuest and approving the new bank account authorization for LifeQuest deposits. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Nice job, Tom. And Lynn, you mentioned that is on the full county board tonight? Okay. Number 11, second courtroom update, courthouse construction update.
Thank you. On the
Yes.
courthouse construction update, we have been, as you know, going through the process of designing the building, and we've been working on that for several months. We've had bi-weekly meetings to not only design it to give us the most beneficial functionality that we can design into that space. After that, we've gone through significant process of value engineering, where we've taken what was designed and all along this process, Myron has a estimated budget for each of these things: HVAC, plumbing, electrical, building, roofing, all this stuff. They're different components, and so they keep track of their estimation of the cost of each of these things and where we're at. And as we first came out of the blocks, we were significantly over budget, and so we did value engineering to reduce costs. Like we had tile in the bathrooms. Well, can we take out tile except on the wet walls? Can we use a different kind of texture on the ceilings or on the walls to reduce the cost? We took tile out of the hallway and used polished concrete to reduce the cost. So we did all of these value engineering things to try and stay under that $8 million limit that we had set way back in the beginning, a number of years ago now. And so they spec this out, they send out the bids. The bids were due in on the 14th, which was Monday. So we had a bid opening on Monday for those construction bids. After that process, we did not receive bids on all those different components, so we were not able to completely get a picture of where we're at. We were kind of optimistic and hoping that everything, all the stars would align and we'd have all the bids and all the questions answered and we could bring this to admin and to the county board this evening, but we're not going to be in a position to do that. And we've had discussions with Myron and the architect this week a couple of times already. We've had discussions with our bond counsel, Brian Della, on just where we're at. Does this affect the schedule at all? Does this affect where we're at going forward? We've still got some work to do on the bids, and so what Myron is going to do is re-bid and repost a few of those components to see if we can get a contractor or subcontractors for each of those subcomponents and a true cost of the project. So we don't have a total number on what this is going to cost at this time because we don't have that completed, and I don't want to, since the bids are still open, we can't really talk numbers at this point, but I think in seeing where we're at, I think we should be prepared, on the what ifs, on if we're over budget, what are the plans going forward? Is that going to be something you would want to do? Do we continue with the value engineering to keep slicing out functionality? But again, it's a little bit early for that, but I just want to forewarn that, with the markets and the way things are currently, it may not be as rosy as the pictures we were hoping for.
Tom, are we considering maybe if these bids do come in high, maybe using some ARPA money? Because that is a one-time expense. I don't see any reason why we couldn't, and I don't know how much ARPA money would be available for something like this.
Yes, ARPA money would be available. Now that we have the final rules came out February 4th, so it's relatively recent that we got the final rules, and it's a good thing that we waited to see those because it was significant in the changes that were made from the interim rules. And the major change is the calculation of the lost revenue. There was a formula before that we would have to do to calculate that the pandemic caused us to lose revenue. Well, the final rules came out and said, you've got a $10 million exemption. So that first $10 million of ARPA funds, and we only got $3 million, I say only, in the sense that it is below the 10 million, that we can use as lost revenue and claim that as lost revenue without doing a calculation. So it's an exemption from having to do that calculation. What does that mean? It means that we can use that whole 3 million, of which we've already used 1 million or so.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We can use the rest of the ARPA funds for any governmental purpose, service that we provide. And that could be courthouse, it could be roads, it could be anything that the county normally does, not debt service, not pension stuff. There's a few exemptions, but basically it's if the government is allowed to do it, you can spend ARPA money for that. So yes, ARPA money could be used to supplant debt or add to the project to your discretion.
But you and Mike have always warned us that we don't want to use one-time funding for operations, correct?
That would be our advice, yes, because if it gets built into the budget, in the operating budget, and then the ARPA money goes away, now you've got positions or operations that you had funded that you can no longer afford if you've got levy limits in place and that sort of thing. So, but construction costs certainly would be a valid use of funds, in my opinion.
When are we able to sit down, Tom, and look at the ARPA funds we've got and what priority are we going to have? We keep nibbling away at it for broadband and for housing, and pretty soon we keep doing this. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
I mean, somehow we should look at this and say, where do we want to spend this money?
Right, and now that we have, the final rules, it's the time to do that. And we were at the WCA meeting last week or the week before, talking to a lot of counties on where they're at, and a lot of counties are in the same boat that we are, is waiting to see what the final rules are in order to properly spend the money. Under the interim rules, basically the only infrastructure you could use that money on was broadband. So we did do a few broadband projects that came along because that was basically the only infrastructure you could use. You couldn't do it on buildings or county roads or anything else. You could only do it on a broadband project, and then you had to have an internet provider to partner with and do it in underserved areas and all these other things that that qualified under that broadband project. So yeah, under the interim rules, you were doing about all you could with the money. Now you've got an expanded palette to use it for a lot of various things. So now it's, if you would have done an exercise prior, you wouldn't have been able to include that, and you'd be starting over and saying, oh, now we can broaden our horizons and do something different. So now is the time.
Did those two broadband things we did approve, did that partnership come together, and are they authorized now?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the million you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
There's other things. in there.
Yeah.
But if we approve the broadband projects this evening, we will have spent down about $1.5 million. And that would leave about $1.5 million available for other ARPA projects.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Kinsley,
I'm just gonna say, we got 3 projects coming forward tonight.
which would bring us to about $1.5 million, right, Mike?
Yeah.
So we have $1.5 million yet to
We spent
allocate.
300,000 on the housing project.
300,000 on housing, 40,000 to convention bureau, a little over 200,000 to law enforcement for that scanner.
Yep.
I believe that's it.
So when we have this discussion, is this the committee that initially reviews that, or where does it go?
Finance,
Starts with
I would
finance?
think.
well, I don't know that finance, if you want finance to set priorities, if that's more of an administrative and full board thing. Up to you, I'm just offering.
Or shouldn't some committee be started?
Yes, or you could build an ad hoc committee for the sole purpose of looking at ARPA activity too. I did receive an email yesterday from some counties on the different things that they're doing. So, as people get rolling in on setting priorities, we'll have some more information on that too as we go along.
Mr. Kinsley. Oh, sorry, Mr. Duffy.
I was just curious, you're able to do this time when you're still on board, rather than have a new guy try to jump into.
Well, my last board meeting is this evening. I will be here for the committee meetings in March, but my last day is March 11th.
But it's gonna be tough for a new man to jump in this thing cold. And I'd like to be able to say, well, we leave, whether it's
With
committee or
the
whatever.
rules, the way they are, I mean, it really opens up, there's not like the restrictions and you got to read through the 432 pages of rules to figure out what you can and can't do. It'll make it a little bit easier. So it's more of an effort of the board deciding, would you rather have broadband or would you rather have roads or building or, there's a few other purposes, but these are board priorities more than an administrator kind of. Somebody can lead the process, but it's not going to be dependent on the administrator to set your priorities.
Don't lose sight. I mean, you still have until the end of 2024 to make commitments. So there's not a time crunch. It's just.
I like the idea of that ad hoc committee. I mean,
I like that idea also.
and then they could bring those ideas to the full county board and we could look at what other counties are doing.
Yeah, you're going to have some turnover in April as well. So, it might be a good time with the new board to start that process rather than, committing the new board to things that they may have different ideas on. A lot of you are going to be the same, but you will have some new ideas there as well.
And our recruitment ad hoc committee will have ended, hopefully, soon after that. Okay, Mr. Kinsley.
If you already spent $1.5 million and we have $1.5 million left, it'd be, in my opinion, foolish not to spend it on the building. If the building comes in at 8 million, then we could decrease it to 6.5. The money's gone. That's how I look at it.
Yep. Tom, would the opioid settlement money be at all allowable for second courtroom? When a lot of these
There are
cases are
specific-
addiction related. How's that?
Doubtful.
Doubtful?
Doubtful. There's a whole nother set of rules on what you can use the opioid dollars for. We did have a brief mention on that at CJCC yesterday as far as taking a look at what those uses could be. So I think we can get that document to the CJCC crew and let them start looking at, it's going to be more about services, programs for opioid rehabilitation, those kinds of things, rather than infrastructure, I would imagine. Especially since, once they're in the court system, that's a little after the fact. I think it's more of an effort to tackle things before it gets to that point.
I'm still concerned that we don't have some kind of a plan as to how to spend this money. And once you're gone, Tom, we really a hole into our planning. And new people, they're wonderful, but they're going to come in here with a zero. we can't expect them to make decisions on their arrival. They're gonna have to look to somebody in the lane, and you're gonna be gone, and the new guy may or may not be here. So I just see a real problem without a roadmap of where to go. And I just don't pass this money away bit by bit and find it's only one, and we never really had a plan of where it's going.
Yeah. Well, I will support that ad hoc committee and put it together soon after the election.
We have to even
So we
wait
have
for
a
the
committee.
election.
Well, you know, we're gonna have a new board. We're gonna have some new people.
Yeah, we're also gonna have no administrator. At least if you start with an ad hoc committee and those people who are on it are defeated, well, we can always replace them. At least we're starting, Mr. Chairman. I'm concerned is that when Tom's gone, there's no leadership. I don't know who's gonna provide that leadership. Who's gonna read all this? I mean, it'll take the new guy a while to get on board, I assume.
This is just one of 1,000 things here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
That's fair.
Gets the speed up.
I'm just concerned that we just keep waiting. There's a problem. We should get going and doing something, but yes, you're the chairman.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. Okay, anything else for Mr. Hoff? So the construction bids, then we are going to table until March.
Yeah,
Mr.
we're
Hoff, or-
hoping, we'll have to open the bid process, have another bid opening day and go through that whole thing. So we're shooting for March. And that's why we've talked, with bond council as well, because we plan to go into March with a number, for the bond. And, if that needs to change, we kind of need to figure that out. So we've got a number of things, that we're trying to get done before I hit the door as well. So,
And like Mr. Kinsley said, it, depending on how these bids come in, that'll take a real for the priorities of that ARPA money.
Yeah.
But if these bids come in $1 million over, then it'd be almost a no-brainer how to use it. Okay. What else, Mr. Hoff?
that's it on this topic, unless Ron has any other comments.
Yeah. Ron, do you have anything?
You did a good job of covering. Yeah. The main thing is the bids. They gotta get all the bids. Then we'll know where we're at. That's the driving seat.
Well, Ron, what was the delay on getting the bids?
Some of there's different components and not all the components were bidded on. Example would be like the roof. Shingles on the roof, I believe it was. We didn't receive a bid for that, so we have to get bids.
Gotcha.
And they were, looking for vendors to bid. They, went down to our local building places and asked for contractors who do this kind of work and that kind of work. And they were talking with these other vendors and got them the materials to bid. And they said, yep, they would bid. Some of them didn't get it in. Okay, so now we're circling back. Okay, why? Are you going to bid? Can you bid? We're going to open some of those things. And then there's other questions. With the people that did bid, there may be questions as to what they bid, or they may have provided alternates, like this is what's in the spec, but if you did it this way, it might be cheaper. So there's some questions that they're trying to work through as well in the process. But, with the environment that we're in, I mean, we've all seen inflation tick up. We've all seen supply chain issues. Without having a total package, we don't know the extent yet, but I'm anticipating that we're going to have to talk about the expense of the building. And
You think we're looking at a shortfall?
yes.
Got it. Mr. Schluter, do you agree with that?
There's never any doubt in my mind.
I know.
I've never seen a large full-scale construction project come in under estimate.
Anything else on the second courtroom update? If not, then we'll move on to county administrator's report.
Howdy. Yes. Just a few items, and we'll talk again tonight, so I won't go into a great deal since we'll talk about it all again tonight. But if you do want to do something with ARPA planning, I will be here through March 11th. That's another round of committees if we want to at least start the process, put something together. That's possible. We're also talking with our auditors, Clifton Larson Allen. They've got a product that helps keep track of ARPA funding, it helps with reporting. Mike and I have looked at that and think that may be a little bit overkill for what we're needing, but they also do consulting services such as, and they just sent me something this morning, so I haven't looked through it, but they may be able to help with that prioritization process. And at least, if not that, they would help with making sure that whatever projects you do are compliant with the regulations and would help with reporting. And Mike and I are thinking that that would be a good thing to engage our auditors in, because as Mr. Duffy alluded to, there's going to be a learning curve in that, and it would be helpful, I think, to have auditors for them to lean on, engaged in helping with the spending of that money and reporting, because there are reporting requirements that need to occur as well. And with both Mike and I leaving before those funds are totally expended, I think it would be prudent to have the auditors engaged in helping with that process. So I'll be analyzing that, and Mike and I can look at that engagement letter that they sent to see what they do, but I'm thinking that would be another way to get some help for the spending and reporting of those funds. Opioid money, we've reached our settlement. We're waiting for all the other paperwork to happen. One of the things that we'll be required to do is open a bank account to deposit those funds in. We're expecting funds probably late spring, early summer is what we're hearing. And so you'll see something maybe March or April to just open a sub account at the bank to deposit those funds. That's a requirement, one of the requirements of the opioid settlement. Unicode, we had hoped to have that wrapped up as well. Excuse me. We're still waiting. We had some minor changes, and I think what we want to do is take our time and get those changes back, get those in front of the board and the public with time to review again, and get that out. So hopefully in March that can happen, but that won't be on the February agenda. Again, that'll be a nice thing when it's done. Many years in the process of getting that accomplished. Been working with Mike and Rose, especially on the transition, talking about what needs to happen, how to find records and documents and contracts and any authorizations that need to happen. If I'm authorized to do this or that, make sure those are transferred appropriately. Talking about the timing of things and whatnot. So we've been working through some of those processes. That's kind of the general update, unless you've got questions on any of the other happenings.
Mr. Chairman, on the broadband that we've approved and goes before the board tonight, how much of the county is left uncovered? How much is there left to be done on broadband?
There are still areas, lots of areas that are underserved or not served at all. I don't know that we know, like some of the companies keep that proprietary on where they've laid their fiber and whatnot. But the PSC has a website that shows what areas are covered and not covered. So we can look at that. Maybe we look at that tonight as well as we review these things. I don't know that it gives you all the answers that you need, but
If you're looking project on the cost of that, we can expect those areas to come in and want the same treatment that we've provided other parts of the county.
Yeah.
What are we looking at? And this goes back to the ARPA funds again.
well, yeah, I mean, it's quite the shell game, because you not only want these areas covered because school kids now need to do a lot online, and there's a lot of different reasons, but getting to the solution, we've got ARPA funds, great. There's also PSC grants, there's also the infrastructure Fed program that's coming out that we don't know how much of that's going to be, that's significant broadband money perhaps as well. So there's different pots of money that can address broadband, not just ARPA. So then the trick is, do you use ARPA funds for this as opposed to some state funds coming down the pike or infrastructure money? But yet you've got to work with providers, and when they're ready to do something, you almost have to hop on it because there's not another company that's going to come in and do it. So they all kind of work together as well. They did their presentation at what committee was that? Finance committee, on how they do work together. This guy's going to run a line up here, so this company's not, but they're working over here. And the PSC won't let them duplicate efforts. So it's not like two of them can go, run a line along the same highway. So there's some cross-checking there on what's available, but
Well, I can see where broadband might assume all the money from ARPA. And that's what we want. Okay. At least we were. So-
yeah, I mean, we could spend all of our ARPA money and it's not going to complete the county by any stretch of the
Well,
imagination.
that's why I think we have to have that committee to look at this and say, where do you want to spend this money before we spend it?
What does everyone think about putting this on each committee meeting in March? Do you think that would be opening it up to too many ideas? You know what I mean, Lynn? Put it on all the committees in March, use of ARPA funds.
I think you better off to form an ad hoc committee and get one small group to come, and then of course they all have a chance to kick at it if they don't like it. But
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, Dale.
Sorry.
Yep.
I agree, Tom. I think inviting it's chaos.
Yeah.
It's just extra people to really probably know great useful information.
Thank you, Dale.
Yeah, I think within a month, we're gonna know whether we need that money for the building or not.
Exactly,
That's it.
exactly. Tom, what about will someone be available to advise us on the use and restrictions of the opioid funds? Are we gonna rely on you and Mike or Mike?
Well, we don't know exactly when we're getting.
No, but I mean, the first payments are expected in 2022, early summer.
Ballpark,
and
how
another
much?
Fall. We don't know.
No idea.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think some of it's front loaded, which means we'll get, it's not an annual payment over the 20 years. It's a little bit more in the beginning and tapers off. So we don't know exactly what the amount is going to be. But we do know what the rules are. So we can get the rules out, like the CJCC and whoever needs them, wants them. It's going to be instrumental for the health department, especially to help develop programs, services.
Okay, anything else on the county administrator's report?
Oh,
Yes.
How about corporate counsel? Where are we with that? Are we looking for anybody, or are we gonna?
We are still utilizing Mr. TJ Duffy for the things that he had always done, unless he's conflicted with his family court commissioner duties. We had some open items at Von Briesen that we have transferred to Andy Phillips' new firm, Atolis. So Andy Phillips split off from Von Briesen and started his own firm. And so since he's familiar with our county and the issues that were open, we transferred most things from Von Briesen to the Atolis. Atolis is now the representative for WCA. So they're still heavily involved in county activity and know all these things coming down that are county concerns. So we'll be utilizing them. thought was, the Von Briesen we're still using for the union negotiations with the sheriff, which happens this year. They've done that in the past, so they've got all of our records and why things are in the contract the way they are. So Mindy Dale is with Von Briesen, and she will help you through that process unless you have other ideas. And so that's where we're at. So it's another one of those things where, and we've talked about it in the past. Do we want to have a full-time in-house corp counsel? Do we want to continue to use, third parties? So that's another discussion. I think when you get a new administrator, he'll have ideas on the direction they want to utilize, because that position I rely on heavily for, they've done a lot of work in zoning. They've done a lot of work on contractual issues, on the airport negotiations. It is important that we have good corp counsel services, whether we want to do that locally or continue to use expertise or some combination thereof. We're at kind of a crossroads there too. I mean, with Rebecca leaving, Von Briesen, we're kind of at a
She's
crossroads.
gone now, isn't she?
Yes, correct.
Well,
So
and we know
do
what we
have-
get with Andy Phillips.
Pardon me?
We know what we get with Andy Phillips.
Right, and yeah, that's a good thing. We still have those services.
Right.
And the services of WCA when we have, things that
Yeah.
affect all counties.
And then you're satisfied we're covered then at the moment.
We're covered at the moment, and I would call it more of a Band-Aid than a permanent solution. I think, it's something that the new administrator will want to look at and take a course of action, whether it's this one or a different one, but yeah, I mean, with the changes that just occurred in January. And so, we've got it covered for now. We've got it covered. We've got people that we can ask questions to if we need legal advice. But I think you'll want to look at that and do something a little bit more permanent. Which
Mr.
may be
Kansas.
I just wanted to know where Rebecca went, if she was still available or not. That's all.
Yeah, she went to the DOT and she started in January something or other.
She handles your driver's license now.
Yeah.
But we had
Allocates DOT road funding.
good discussion with Rebecca and Andy Phillips at WCA conference.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Good.
Yep. Okay, anything else for county administrator's report?
Yeah.
Yep.
The public safety judge was in, and he was talking about he wanted somebody to go to Winnebago, I think it was. And what's happening with that person? $100,000 for Sawyer County, or did the judge change anything and speed things along?
He mentioned something about that in CJCC yesterday. Did you recall if he knew what the status was of that person?
Aren't they still in our jail service?
That's what I was thinking.
I don't think so. I think they're out and doing well, I thought he said.
Yes. Yeah, they were in our
Yeah.
jail system because.
Yeah, but
they
now
needed-
they're out
yeah,
and he's surprised because they're doing so well. But they were in our system much longer than he ever imagined they would be.
Right.
And he threw that on the state saying resources aren't up to date either.
Well, it was a person that needed mental consultation instead of being in jail, but they had to sit in jail because of whatever transportation issue or the facility didn't pick them up or something. I don't know what the deal was.
Thank you, that's good to know.
And I never want to forget that court ordered out of county placements, we can borrow money for. Correct?
That's an option.
Anything else for Mr. Hoff?
So just to clarify, you're gonna be here next month for the committee meetings or what? When's your last
Yes,
day?
March 11th is my last day. So after this week, it'll be 3 more weeks. So we've got a lot of cleanup to do in the
So
meantime.
when do
And
we
then
meet again, this committee?
March
Yeah.
10th.
No, no, no.
Next to last day, okay.
So make sure you call them every day.
Yeah, and I don't-
Ask them
yeah,
every
yeah.
meeting.
I don't know how many parties you want, Tom, but this. Okay, anything else for Mr. Hoff?
Mike's last day is what?
Yeah, it's open
So
ended.
you'll be with us for a while.
A little while.
What's your next topic for discussion on the agenda?
Oh, stop it, you guys. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Great report. Number 13, administrator recruitment update. Appoint interim county administrator. Discussion possible action, Mr. Kinsley.
Well, right now, they're out recruiting to try to get, see how many applications they're gonna get. At the end of this month, they'll have the applications in. And the first of next month, we'll be doing interviews. In the meantime, I've been communicating with Mr. Huff, Mr. Keith, and we think it's a pretty good idea to appoint an interim administrator while Tom is gone, because we have a lot of important things in front of us right now. Someone that can take care of some of that stuff. I asked Mr. Keith if he's interested in doing that, and he's interested.
Perfect. Mr. Keith?
Ron asked me, like he said, I said I would certainly do it in the interim, hopefully to provide the leadership when Tom's gone that we need between Tom leaving and the new administrator coming in. So, hoping timing on that is maybe by the end of April, something's in place there.
Okay.
And then maybe.
Effective March 12th, March.
March 11th, 12th.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
it's, yes, it's
Great.
gone, up until the point of the new administrator. And I don't know, should there be a short period of overlap at that point also? I don't know, but I'm open to whatever we need to do to make that happen. I'm hoping on the finance side that that person's already in place and we'll have some overlap there. So that recruiting is currently open. I think it's open until filled, but hopefully by the first part of April, we'll have somebody in that position. I would hope.
So you think, Mike, that there will be a little transition period from the new person coming on and you leaving?
Well, yeah, I'm open to it. I don't know the timeline exactly, but it seems like maybe the soonest somebody would be on board is end of April. And then maybe, a few weeks or whatever it needs to be. Rose is pretty involved on the administration side also, so.
I've been keeping Mike and Rose abreast of, all the issues that may lag into the next term here.
Yeah.
So have you submitted a letter of resignation then, or a letter?
I did send Tom a notice of retirement, yes.
Oh, okay. God,
My
you
intent
guys.
to retire, whether that's a resignation or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I just meant.
Yeah, I had, on that letter, I think I said tentatively April 30th, but I told everybody that it's, open-ended, whatever it needs to be.
Appreciate it. Okay, then
So we need a motion of
I
that?
do. I would entertain a motion that we'll just go to the full county board.
I think so.
Yeah,
And is it on tonight's agenda, Madam Clerk? Entertain a motion then, Mr. Duffy, to appoint Mr. Mike Keefe as interim county administrator, effective March 11th, Mr. Kinsley. Motion by Mr. Duffy. Second by Mr. Kinsley. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Schleter?
Put the cart before the horse a little bit. I mean, yeah, I would like to have Mike help out being a person, but to put a date on that, we don't know when that's going to happen. I think we need to leave that somewhat open-ended.
That's just the starting date.
Start date. I mean, it would be when Tom leaves.
Okay,
Before we vote, we have to.
Yep.
okay.
What do we do for compensation then?
That's exactly what's next.
Great question.
That's what we have closed session.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I've got a motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Mr. Kinsley to appoint Mr. Mike Keefe, our finance director, as interim county administrator effective March 11, 2022. Is there any further discussion
Well, we should go into closed session and talk about a couple things.
of compensation? And
Before we- I think we should,
That's fine.
okay, yep, I would certainly.
and we can have that on the table. The motion in a second, and we can go to closed session. Finish it. and we'll come
Yep.
back. If that's-
So part of discussion, Tom, I could go into closed session.
Yeah, do you need to take action to table that and then pick it up off the table when you come out of closed session?
You
Yeah,
just-
could we amend the motion to table it until after closed session?
I think if you just didn't vote, whatever, that's fine.
Or we can make another motion. Want to withdraw the motion?
Or, yeah, true. What does the committee want to do?
Let's withdraw the motion, and when we come back into open session, we can take care of it.
Okay,
Okay.
so we withdraw the motion.
Withdraw, you withdraw your second, Mr. Kinsley. Okay. Motion has been withdrawn for now. Then I would entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C. Enter a closed session to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Motion, Mr. Duffy,
Yeah, so moved.
second by Mr. Schleter. If there's no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Schleter.
Yeah.
Mr. Kinsley,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy.
Yes.
We're in closed session, 10:52.
Good job. That's replacing me. I'm kidding.
Make sure you have to turn that on. Okay, we are out of closed session. And we are back to 13A, appoint interim county administrator, discussion and possible action. We need to wait for anyone to come back, or are we good?
I don't think so.
I'm not sure Tom's coming.
Okay, Mr. Duffy.
I'll also move.
Okay, motion by Mr. Duffy, and we want to get this right, to appoint Mr. Mike Keefe, our current finance director, as interim county administrator effective March 11th, 2022. And pay him the salary of the current county administrator as the interim director. Is there anything else need to be added to that, Ron? Okay. Motion, looking for a second. Second by Mr. Schleter. And then we'll put this on the full county board tonight.
It's on the agenda.
So I think
It's
he's
the
on.
same way it's set.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Wonderful.
Thank you, folks.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mike, appreciate you
Lucky he's here.
stepping up, which I knew you would. Okay, any number 14, future agenda items. Why don't we discuss in our meeting in March, this ad hoc committee for ARPA priorities? So can we add that, Glenn? So then in March, we can move to approve another ad hoc committee.
And in general, that's the same thing as on the agenda for finance too.
Okay.
Requested.
The agreement Tom was talking about will probably come to committees in March also. Because that probably would come out of ARPA funds then too.
Oh, yeah, about the reporting and the use of ARPA
Yeah,
funds. Sure.
consulting side.
All right, any other matters for discussion only? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.